and welcome to the CEN show, the platform where we learn from the world community. I am your host, Rashki Maskani, and this evening on the panel we have Brother Hembrick, historian Joe Hembrick, and we got Brother Mashinda. And our guest this evening is Brother Damian McCalman, and he's been on a few times. And he's a regular here, and we always enjoy his commentary. So the topic for this evening is youth development, gaining their trust and admiration, and it's part two. Part one was a few months ago. Well, Brother Damian, welcome back. You can go ahead and get started, brother.
Oh, okay. Well, once again, just thank you for allowing me to join you all. I'm gonna share my screen real quick and we'll go at it. All right. So if you guys remember last time we were talking about, just me seeing a movie. I just came across a movie entitled "A Piece of the Action." It was a 1997 film. Bill Cosby, Sidney Poitier, and I was watching it, just on Saturday, nothing to do, and I watched it. Always like watching those movies with those two guys in it. So I watched this one, and it towards the end, it stood out, or I was reminded that I work with youth, and that some of the stuff that they were talking about really resonated. So I went back and watched more, and I really just started to take notes about what their discussions were and what their dialogues were, and some of the issues that they were having. So I took all those notes, and like I said last time, it was really just about sharing those thoughts with you and picking your brains, because I know you guys have worked with youth far longer than myself. I'm in my 10th year working for a nonprofit, Elevate Your Game in Compton, Long Beach, and having good success with it, but always looking to grow and to add to the knowledge of how to work with, how to best serve our youth. And in this movie, it's talking about gaining their trust and their admiration. So from that, I realized that it was really about we or us who work with youth needing the development to really, really serve them well. And again, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years, always trying to learn and grow different communities throughout Southern California, Compton, Long Beach, Harbor City, Linwood, and then as far up as West Adams. So, all those different communities working with the same demographics, but even in that, those youth are all different. And it's just me, working with them. And again, in the movie, what stood out was that the woman who was the main teacher, she wasn't connecting with the students. And Cheryl Lee Ralph's character pointed that out. And Cheryl Lee Ralph's character pretty much summed up who this teacher was by how she reacted and interacted with the students. And it was just like, eye-opening. And I'll say this because I'm working in two new schools in Long Beach, and I know one of the administrators that's working with the students, he's sort of hiding his background because he doesn't think that the students would connect with him if they knew that he came from sort of a middle class family with, with ends to their means. You know what I mean? Like, so he thinks that, if they know that, they won't connect with me. And a part of that is in the movie, because this woman is, the Shirley Rouse character says, you're well off. You don't live here. You don't know what we're going through because that's not your struggle. And it's funny because that's his story. Like, I don't know their struggle because my parents had money. They can give us what we wanted. We were never hungry. We never had the lights. So I've always had two cars. Always were able to go on vacations and But his thought is, I can't connect with them if they know that. So as I've been with him, he sort of dummies down his life to connect. And in my mind, I'm like, don't do it because, one, I was like, I think our youth needs to hear from people of different backgrounds, different economic statuses, so that they can just understand. So as we go through these slides, I'm gonna try to pick up where we stopped off last time, which I believe would be. I'm gonna go here. So as educators, I'm gonna ask you guys, how do you think the educational system today, or even, for some of you guys who may be retired, how do you think the educational system is doing in teaching our youth to think through problems, figure out what think through problems, figure out what the problems are, and then choose the right tools to solve them? How do you think the day-to-day educational system is really doing in that area? And I'll open it up.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start it off today.
Okay.
Now, I'm looking at how things are. Like let's take Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Okay, if you take Southern California, everything is inflated at the moment. All of the prices are extremely high, and we have a large population that's homeless, and we have the kids are primarily into pop culture,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have you take schools for instance. The schools are highly test driven, and they're concerned about test scores. And I think that as an educator that's been teaching for 28 years, I think that, and I think brother historian Joe Hembrick always talk about, how to connect with them. And my thing is when you have an educational institution, you have certain dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
You should address those certain dynamics that are very impactful to that which hinders students from learning. And I think we we're not properly putting the kids in the places where they can grow and achieve. That's just my personal opinion, because I'm not going to talk about the school I work at because this is separate from that. But these are my observations. I think we need to really focus on what's going on totally and start addressing the issues that they have, because they come there and they have them and they're struggling. So we really have to, I think, focus on that and put things in place to address certain issues. And I'll let the other two panelists talk now. Brother Mashinda.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Um, well, I mean, I think you made some good points there. I mean, the state of the K through 12, whether it's here where I'm at or in California, where I've worked, where I've been, where I went to school and so forth, I mean, I think that it all comes down to priorities, what's important. And so the decision makers, in my opinion, I think there are some great people who are working in education that are doing their best, trying to make a difference, trying to identify some of these things that Ron Saki you're talking about as far as, what's, kind of cooking to order. It's more like, what is it that's going on? Why is this person not engaging in school or in organizations or being a participant, in the school system, So again, it's a vast problem. It's an issue. I think it's structurally damaged. I think that they're from the top. It starts at the bottom and it starts at the top. When they come out of their households, holding parents accountable for their children, engaging them, but then then there lies a problem there because somebody, over the years and generationally, some of these parents used to be used to be that kid who had kids and things like that. So there are things that went unaddressed with them. So it's been passed on, kind of a generational thing. And so my thing is, it's like, whose responsibility is it? That's the question. That's the $1 million question. Whose responsibility is it? To identify, and to be able to relate to these students and to get them to go in the direction that's a positive direction and have a positive outcome for each one of them. And in my experience, I find that, there are people who oppose the philosophy of that, hey, it's not their job. I graduated. I want to teach English. I want to teach math. I'm going to be a teacher. I shouldn't have to deal with discipline, behavioral issues and things like that. Well, the school system, again, a lot of school systems don't support their teachers, and that's a problem. So I think that there's a lot of people that are complicit as it relates to the problem of what's going on. It's this is I'm just kind of being broad because this is a huge issue. We could talk about homelessness. We could talk about what a lot of different topics, the drug situation. We can talk about a lot of things, and this is just one of them. Education is just one of those one of those items that we're talking about. And so I think it is important to be able to identify with the student, and get to learn individuals, and then, kind of, build a relationship from there. But, it comes, if you don't have that support, it gets to a point to where people like us, I'm gonna say, we just do what we can. We do all what we can within our capacity, But I think it's damaged at the top, administrators and different people, political influence and all kind of things that are going on. So but unfortunately the young children, the children, they suffer from this, So I believe what you're saying, hey, and you don't have to be from the neighborhood or whatever. The point is having the ability to communicate regardless, and those who want to work in systems that have more problems than others, yeah, you're just gonna do your research and you find out and you learn about people through communication, and then you try to prescribe the best remedy for them and try to get help. But again, so I think I'm kind of all over the place with it. But at the end of the day, I think that all the positive efforts should be applauded. I said, but I don't know, man. It's an uphill battle because there's a lot of influences out there that don't believe in, certain things that's gonna, what I believe in. They don't believe in it. They have their own philosophy and opinion about it. You take like CRT and, Black history and things like that. People don't believe that should be in the school, that it affects the white children, make them feel guilty, and make them feel uncomfortable. Well, if you examine that, do you think, if, it depends on how it's taught, But I'm saying is there's all kind of things with education. I was just reading some about early childhood, They're trying to take out some of the emotional development teachings in the classroom. That's just something I read probably 2 or 3 minutes before I left, or whatever you want to call it. That's trying to invoke their principles and their philosophies, and so we're just that's it. We can just add the phrase that we're at war when it comes to education. So, but anyway, I'm pretty done with that.
All right, thanks. Brother Henry? Brother Henry, are you there? All right, Damian, we could go ahead, come back to Henry.
Okay. All right. No, that's some good. Whatever you like. Okay, he's back.
Sorry about that. I'm having to put it out. But anyway, all those things that were said were good. I just know some things I tried, and every a disease or illness, you can't paint them all with the same brush because they come from different situations. But I know for the most part, if they know you care about them, that's big. And I was from the same situation a lot of my students were from, so they could kind of and I would throw that out there, all the little messed up stuff I did, and when I was growing up their age, and following other people and not thinking for yourself and all of that, and talking with a lot of them and their generational issues that they've had. I would speak to them about breaking the cycle of their family situation. Mama, grandma, great grandma, papa, all that, about breaking that cycle is what we need to focus on. And that was always kind of resonating in their mind, letting them know that you can get out of what you're in if you focus on, what's been happening. I used to have a philosophy, it was called no LBS. I used to teach them you can become anything you want in life if you would just eliminate LBS from your life. And LBS stands for laziness and bullshit. And I would have them make charts of the things that they would do throughout the day. What category did it come under? Laziness or the other. And uh, one thing that's kind of universal with dealing with the kids that we're talking about is food. You don't realize how many kids come to school hungry. That's big time. And a lot of them have too much pride to go into what they call a county line and going and get, something, because a lot of that food ain't worth a damn either. At least it's something to eat. As far as dietarily, it's not good. Uh, as far as being a teacher and whatever capacity you're in, another thing is big. Do they see you in the community? Other than at the school site. That goes a long way too. I used to just show up at their house, and they think I would be too intimidated to show, but I would go to their house and talk to their parents if they had parents, and that goes a long way. Uh, Another thing, as far as uh, dealing with their thought processes and solving problems, uh, the individual professional can take it a certain degree, but the schools need to develop peer groups that the student can go to try to resolve whatever issues is going on with them at the school site or even at home. Another thing, and when you're teaching, you know, we know they're all test driven and all that, but in your lessons, can you relate it to their reality, which gets their attention? I used to tell some teachers, especially math teachers, and some of them, talk about, stuff that's in their world. If you had a 40 ounce and you drunk so many quarts, how many quarts, what's left, that kind of thing. Or even breaking down dope. A lot of them grow up in dope houses. If you had an ounce of cocaine and you did, how many ounces does a pound make and all, you got to get something to get their attention. I'm not, and I don't mean to be advocating that type of lifestyle, but I had kids tell me when they was babies growing up, instead of milk bottles, they was drink. The parents would give them Old English 800 in the bottle, in the baby bottle, that kind of stuff. And what I try to do is make them aware of the services. Like a lot of them are in the system, and they're ashamed to be in the system. But I would talk to them about the things that were available in the programs that can give them everything they want, even if they had a parent. A lot of these programs give them everything, but the kids are too ashamed to gravitate to it, letting people know that that's their home situation. You know what I mean? I was at a reunion a few years back, and it was for that school that the brother didn't want to mention. And I was sitting at a table with the wife of one of the students. And some of the kids were up there, and I was telling her how proud I was of them behind the way they had changed their life around and became a good citizen, a family person. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, a lot of them were homeless and stuff when I was teaching them." And so when her husband came back to the table, she was saying, "Oh, honey, Mr. Hemrick was saying, oh, he's so proud of you guys because, you guys are in the system homeless." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, because I was one of them." And it shocked her. She didn't even know. And that's his wife. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of shame that goes. I remember when I was a kid, my stepfather was an alcoholic. And he'd come to the games, be all drunk and talking loud and crazy. It's embarrassing. And so kids grow up with all these kind of feelings that need to be addressed. Because I was 10 when my father got killed by the police. Then I go from there to a drunken stepfather that just worked me like a slave in the yard, but at least I learned how to take care of a house and a yard and all that, because I had to do that every day before anything else, before I went to school, before I go to a practice. I had to hang up clothes in the morning on the clothesline before dryers came out, and I had to do yard work when I got home. And I asked to get paid. He told me I got paid when I sit at the dinner table at night. So, you got all these factors that these kids are dealing with. But like I said, you got to kind of diagnose what's going on with them. And you may know somebody that could address their issue. It's good to be able to network. But for my last 8 to 10 years of working, I was trying my damnedest to get mental health services in there for them kids. And it was a difficult thing to get that done. It's like they ain't had. Now, what I hear last few years, the district has adopted some kind of programs, but I bet it's more like putting a Band-Aid on the AK-47 wound. That's how I found districts really respond to the needs. I remember when I first got there, 2/3 of my kids couldn't read the book. And I raised hell about that. You don't even have a reading class to correct the deficiency in the reading. And they kind of shrugged me off and all of that. So I tried my best to help with that, but I was not trained on how to teach somebody how to read. And there's a whole lot involved in that too. But most of our kids, that's their problem, the reading ability. So I remember one time I had this kid when I was dealing with a discipline issue, and it was at Compton High. And the police had to come and they had to handcuff him on. He was just going off, you know. And one thing he said that really stayed in my mind all these years, and he was cussing like a sailor. He said, I learned more on the Discovery Channel than I learned up in this raggedy. You know, I had to catch myself and laugh, and I say, he's probably right. You know, so like I say, it's like diagnosing a disease. You have to check them out to see what they need. And that was the first thing I do. The first week of school, everybody at least had to read a paragraph. So I know what I'm dealing with from the gate. But I talked to some teachers, they never checked the kids' reading ability the whole year. And then they wonder why the kid is a discipline problem, because you got read these pages and answer these questions on the board and the kid can't read. So, you know, I did the best I could. But the last thing I'm gonna leave you with is once they finally let me start teaching the true African history, I seen a lot of them turn around, man. They were sucking that up like a crackhead in the crack house because they never heard it before. Their parents never heard it before. And it gives them some sense of self-esteem of what their ancestors have accomplished that they don't teach in the school system from kindergarten through PhD. Even Black colleges ain't teaching it. I question a lot of kids go to Black universities and stuff, and there's very little that they know because the money to keep the school open come from white philanthropists. And folks that I studied under, they got fired some 40 some times for teaching the truth on the university level. So, you know, you got to short punch them, long punch them. You got to do what you can, when you can, where you at, and do the best you can do and plant the seeds and hope the water comes from somewhere down the line. So that's been my experience.
Right. Right, Damian.
All right. No, that was all good stuff because I think even today I was thinking, you know, I wanted this to be sort of if teachers or educators or people who just work with youth would look at this and just gain some wisdom from you guys, really, as they listen. I think a lot of things that you said I've seen, I can speak to. I brought donuts a few weeks ago to one of my groups, and I'm in a class at like 10 o'clock. And this girl, I've been there all year. So what, September? It's March. She didn't say a word to me all year long. I brought donuts and she called my name. She's like, Mr. Damian, I have a question. I'm like, hold on. You know my name? And she's like, yeah. I was like, but you don't talk to me. You never speak to me when I come. I say hi to you and you just look at me. You never participate. And when I brought donuts, you know, I said it was the donuts. And she was like, you know, I'm usually hungry at this time. So I was like, okay. So do I have, you know, I asked, like, do I have to bring donuts every week to get you to talk? And she just smiled. And I said, okay, I'll bring something for you to snack on if that's going to help you get through, you know, at least this class, but hopefully it gets to, you know, help you throughout the day. But yeah, just bringing them something to meet their need so that they're even open to the assistance that we're giving. I was shocked. I said, you're going to talk to me the whole period. And she did. But it's because of the donuts. You know, now she's like, next week, can you bring such and such? I'm like, now you're getting greedy. But, you know, I'm laughing at it. But I'm like, I get it. So I thought that was a good point as well. Then the second, let me see, the second slide. Let me see. Okay. How do you think the educational system is doing in teaching the urban youth to the truth about the streets? You know, because the streets are really teaching our children how to solve them problems. how to solve problems. The streets are teaching them how to hustle to survive, and they're not necessarily teaching them how to get a job or career. And I say that because Henrik said relating these topics or these subjects to them. I know a math teacher. He was working in LA. He said he would talk to them. He was teaching them like a high level math, but he was connecting it to the streets, and he was like they were soaking it up. I know a program. It's called the MBA, Math Basketball Association, where they take math and they somehow they've created it to connect with the NBA and sports. So like I've said in a class where a group of 40 boys are competing with math problems on a board. And I'm like, my mind was blown because they're using their competitive nature to learn math and compete and have playoff systems. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing that I've ever seen with boys in math. Because these boys, they was like, we really hate math. but I'm like, you're doing it though. And you're trying to solve these problems. And the teacher is like, it's their competitive nature. Some of these are athletes who play, they don't want to get beat. So he was like, now they're learning and they're sharing how they're learning this stuff with each other. And it was the coolest thing. I know it's still going on. It's the coolest thing that I've seen too with math for boys. Like these classes are boy specific and girl specific, but they're competing and it's making math interesting and fun to them in their space. So how do you think, and even to that, I was talking to a young man years ago about planning. Like, do you plan your day? Do you plan to come to school? Do you plan? He was like, no, I don't plan nothing. And it's like, well, what do you do in your off time? Well, I was like, well, what do you do that keep getting you in trouble? Because he kept getting in trouble. And of course, he was like, he had to make sure that I wasn't the police. That was his question. Are you the police? Like, no, I ain't the police. But it was like, he wanted to do his research on me, which was fine. But after he found out that I wasn't law enforcement, he told me, he was like, we do home invasions. That's how we get money. And I'm like, okay, well, walk me through this process. And he had the process laid out. He had the plan laid out as to how they're going to do their home invasions from the time that they leave whoever house they're gathering at to the time they return. He had it laid out. So I'm like, you do know how to plan. You just don't do it, for this, but you do it for that. And he's like, yeah, because we can't get caught. He broke it down to me like it was, we're going to show up at the house at this time. Well, where are you doing it? We're going to do it out in Cerritos. Why Cerritos? I'm like, tell me why. He's like, because that's far enough away. And he had the demographics. But I'm like, there's a sheriff station right there. He was like, yeah, but they're not looking in their neighborhoods. They're looking on the outskirts of the city. I'm like, because he did the planning. He's like, we've done the research. We've scouted the spots we're going to hit. And I'm like, so you do know how to plan. I just want you to now plan really, for your future, for your life, because you can do it. And you can gather people to do it with, because that's what you do, right? So like you said, but the streets are telling them to do this. I think I told you guys, I may have not said it, but with this boy, he was like, the streets are telling me at the age of 14 or 15, and this was a few years ago, if I get caught, I'll spend 6 months in camp where I'll do my schoolwork and I'll come out of that and go back to school and I won't be behind. He was like, so I'm not really going to miss anything. So he was like, that's what the streets are telling me is going to be the consequences if I get caught breaking into somebody's house. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. But I'm like, what about the consequences of getting caught? Go ahead.
Yeah, did you talk to him about the possible consequences? Like, you're in somebody's home and they got a gun.
Yeah. And like you said,
did he factor in all of that?
Man, he said that that's not what we talk about in the streets. We talk about getting caught by the police. And I'm like, but what if one of these people, our neighbor, sees you and the consequences are worse? He was like, we don't think like that. I'm like, well, every time I see you, that's going to be, I want you to think about that aspect because that could happen versus that 6 months. Because he was only about the 6 months, but he's saying that that's what they're telling me. That's what the big homies in the streets are telling me. Do this while you're young, because the consequences are not as great. I think Hembrick unmuted himself.
Yeah, I wanted to go to Brother Doctor, and then we can come back to Hembrick. The Brother Doctor joined, and he joined in the middle of the first response. So, Brother Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to address that?
Yeah, I joined late, so I'm kind of behind on what's going on.
Well, not this one. This one you joined. You was here for this second one. The first one you wasn't. You came during that one. So I waited to call on you. So did you want to address this one about the streets?
As far as the street, what about the streets? Teaching teaching youth, urban youth how to solve problems. Teaching. I heard Hembrick talking about, and I just heard Damian I think it was Damian just talking. Now, see, I'm from the other. I'm not a teacher, like Damian said. I'm retired law enforcement, so I'm from the other end. So interesting. I just see you guys as failures. So that's what I do with you guys as failures on that end. And but like I think, like you just said about the guy, I can tell you, man, I read many probation officers' reports, a lot of C files, and these are smart guys, man. When you put these guys into a task, they figure stuff out, man. And a lot of people don't understand. Think these guys are dumb as in prison. These guys are very highly intelligent, man. They be making, well, we skip the weapons, but they make tools, stoves. They be making all kind of stuff just out of materials around, man. It'll blow your mind. You see these things these guys can make. And but yeah, I'm just listening, man. Just keep on going.
All right, Brother Hembrick.
Yeah, usually the leader of the group is real sharp all the time. The ones that's following are the ones that are kind of dodos. But I had a kid at Centennial, and he was doing a lot of home break-ins, which is what I was going to mention. He was doing them out in Beverly Hills, and he finally got caught. The person was at home and blew him and shot him and killed him. So, they need to know, what can be waiting on them. I had another point I was going to make. I lost my train of thought. But, about the big homies and them listening to them. And I would kind of rag on that. I said, so you're listening to somebody old as me, still living at home with their mama, and you following, the doggone directives that they give, because they used to, I don't know, they still doing it, this thing called rat packing, where one of the people in their neighborhood is in a fight and all of them would jump in. And I used to be breaking it up, calling them a bunch of punks for all of them jumping on one dude. And usually, the dude from their neighborhood kind of brought the ass whooping on by what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? So and then people telling these kids the truth. I remember we had a set of twins there. They had checked in from someplace, and they were down the street at this hamburger stand on El Segundo. And this old OG came in there, and they were ragging him about what set was he from and all this and that. The dude was standing up for where he was from, the mob or something. And so these youngsters jumped on the guy and started beating the hell out of him. And one of his people rode through in a car and saw what was going on and shot and killed two of them. And one of them got away. And I remember at school, when they were making an announcement about what happened, they act like they were just sitting there eating hamburgers and got shot. And that was a lie. They should have told the truth about how it really went down. You never know who you messing with. Okay, and that's the thing in life everyone needs to learn. Plus, you don't need to mess with nobody anyway. But uh, just being truthful with kids and honest with them, and they have a rough way to go, man, and it takes a whole community, not just a village, a whole community. But a lot of the community kind of be putting it off on their parents. And I said, well, what if the kid ain't got no parents? Now what? And people don't want to look beyond that, especially at these urban schools where I worked at, man. You know, I used to tell the teachers whenever I was allowed to, they didn't like me talking too much because I'd be keeping it real. I said, if we had to grow up like they have to grow up right now, most of us wouldn't even be here. You understand? We wouldn't have made it through. So you got to have a little more compassion, a lot more love. And like I say, but once they know you care about them, they'll spill their guts to you. They'll spill their guts to you, let you know what's going on. And then we have to be knowledgeable enough. And I used to keep them posted in my classroom all the time, services for them. That's what I had on my bulletin board. Al-Anon, Alateen, the children's services, all that stuff. Because, these kids that are in the system, they'll pay all the stuff the kids need. They prom, they grad night, all that kind of stuff. The county pays for that, give them dresses, shoes, and suits to wear at these affairs. But like I say, the kids, they just feel ashamed and don't want to, utilize what's there for them. And then oftentimes, I remember we went through a WAS accreditation one time. And this lady that ran the WAS is, to certify your school as being a school. What does WAS stand for again, Rashaki?
Western something.
It's
Accreditation. So
accreditation.
yeah, Western something. I'm not well versed on that.
Yeah, and this white lady was sharing out as to what the school needs. And the first thing she said, your kids need a whole lot of hugs and love. That's what they need. That was the first thing came out of her mouth. But it takes a special person to be in this game. And you got to care. If you don't care, you're in the wrong damn business, in my opinion. I've had teachers that have referrals written out for kids months in advance, and the kid ain't never even did nothing. And then these folks from the motherland that's in the system, it's rare. I find one of them that really care. I remember one time this teacher from Nigeria, he was talking about the kids' parents, talking about their fathers and this and that, talking they're a bunch of bums. And I caught him in the bathroom one time. And I said, man, if I ever hear you talking some shit like that again, I'm gonna whoop your ass. That's what I told him. I said, these kids already got it bad enough, and you dumping on them, still dumping on them. You know what I mean? So it's a war. It's warfare, brother, is what it is. And like I say, they didn't actually cut me loose and let me start teaching the truth. I started doing it anyway. And I would, like, there's a term called menticide. I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Bobby Wright out of Chicago. And he coined a phrase called menticide. And menticide is a term that they look to destroy the mind of a group of people. They look to destroy the mind of a group of people with the intent to destroy that group. But they work on the mind. So you have to, become a thinker and analyze what's out there. And it gets the kids to thinking because a kid can't figure it out if you ain't showed them what done happened before. And once they see how it went down, and then they can like, oh, okay. And it ain't like getting all mad and want to fight and all that. It's figuring the stuff out. I used to teach them about property ownership. I took a raggedy field at the school and I had my class, my PE class, dig all the weeds out of there and everything, turn over the dirt. And we started planting food and flowers and stuff out there. And I was showing them now, this is a lesson in property. You know, you can take some land, make it look good, and it increase in value, and that's money in your pocket. Whereas otherwise, if you got jokers hanging in front of your house, shooting dice, drinking, smoking weed, leaving trash everywhere, that runs your property value down from anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. So you're in a sense letting the joker steal $20,000 from you. Now, if that was real money, you'd be ready to kill him. Okay, so think of it on the property side, how you can, make that value increase, and that's why these Europeans really don't want to be around you because they think you run down the property value. So that's why I say like lessons that they can see, you know. And I'm through for right now. I'll come back with something later, maybe. I just want.
Right. Brother Machinda,
Is it okay, Rusky?
go ahead.
Okay, now I'm getting what Hemrick was saying, and like I'm kind of late. Now, can you or Hemrick, can you tell me what you guys had in school? What they don't have now that is a big, make a big difference in the learning, the attitudes? Is there something different that you grew up, went to school, and was taught, or teachers did, curriculum or anything, something that was
I can
special
tell
back
you.
then that's different now?
Yeah, I can
Because
tell
I'm
you.
lost, man, because I'm not in the field, so I'm lost.
Well, well, now in mathematics, I can tell you about mathematics because that's what I teach.
Mhm.
When we were back, matter of fact, when I first started teaching, we had basic math, math, math one. We had math A and math B, and this was in '96. In 2000, they changed the requirements for high school math. All incoming ninth graders had to take algebra, and that was the class that they had to pass to graduate before 2000. And also, I did a little research, and the United States used to be ranked pretty much, I guess what you could say, like in the middle worldwide in mathematics. But now, since they made that change in 2000, the ranking has gone down for the United States. They're lower than they used to be, and it's because they put all of they made the children take higher math courses, and also the testing for those courses when they give these district testing is way above majority of the students' ability.
Mhm.
And so they changed the curriculum, and they say that they wanted to increase math scores, but it didn't help, and it's still not helping. So these are things that they're doing to change the dynamics, and that contributes to a lot of
So
things.
wait.
Yeah.
So wait, man.
Mm,
So you're telling me
mm.
they shouldn't have been learning that algebra at that age or grade?
No, I'm telling no, no.
Wait.
Listen to me. A lot of students don't have the ability to enter in high school on a higher level of math, which is algebra, due
And
to
why
what
is
it,
that?
well, because they don't have the basic skills in memory. That's the main thing. They don't have the basic skills in memory. So when you force them to take higher math courses, you just frustrate them. And so teachers have to be creative in their teaching process just to get students to pass classes. On a, it's just a higher level of math. That's just one thing that causes, that's what's different than when we were in school. Kids were placed properly in classes tailored to their ability. And then the ones who did excel in math is because they put in the work to excel in math. And that doesn't change, but the system changed, and that made things worse than what they were. All right. I just wanted to tell you that's something that's different now.
Well, my experience has been this. And when you talk about, when Robert Ski was talking about basics, kids, they don't come along learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's the problem. That's all math is. Other than that,
that was my point exactly.
That
That this is why they're deficient, because they don't have those 4 basic skills in memory.
But math, other than that, math ain't nothing but a formula after the basics. And that's what I would try to get the kids to see. And you can get your basics down packed with flashcards. You know what I'm saying? And I taught my kids how to study with those flashcards. Smaller than a book, fit right in your pocket. You can hand them to somebody to quiz you on it. Because if you can learn, they listen to a new rap, okay? And in 20, 30 minutes, they got the whole damn thing memorized. So don't tell me you can't memorize this stuff. That's on the math part. And then I just tell them, hell, your ancestors built pyramids that these white folks can't even figure out how to do. That takes mathematics. So your people invented mathematics. So don't tell me this crap is hard. That's what they got you believing. Secondly, what they messed up years ago is when they went from a phonetic way of teaching how to read, phonics. They went from phonics to a whole language approach. And I started teaching in 1979, okay? And they had went the phonics nowhere, okay? And this lady who was my counselor when I was in high school, and first of all, I went to school with white folks first before I came to Compton, like one black to a class, and I got skipped up and all of that because I was big and I was kind of somewhat smart. But when I got to Compton, I had never been around so many black people in my life. And I started getting into all the black stuff, the Panthers, the Muslims, Malcolm, all that old kind of stuff when I got to Compton, because I never got any of that when I was down with the white folks, okay? And I used to teach and when I came to Compton, the classes they had me taking, I had 3 and 4 years before. So I didn't even have to study because I already knew it. So, but phonics is key, man. And this counselor who I had in high school was assistant principal at Centennial when I got there. Like I mentioned earlier, I was telling like 2/3 of my kids couldn't read the book. And I don't mention her name, but anyway, I was like, hey, Miss So and So, my kids can't read and ain't nothing in place to correct it. And she said, well, Joe, the state went to a whole language approach and we can't offer reading as a department anymore. And I'm like, lady, I just left Linwood School District, which is about 2 miles east of here. We had 2 reading labs. So don't tell me this crap about that. That's bullshit. But they put that on these black and brown schools to keep these kids behind. And when they used to play music at lunchtime, all the kids out there boogalooing and going on, I say, you need to play Hooked on Phonics is what need to be coming over the loudspeaker, because a lot of them don't know it, and they're ashamed to let it be known that they don't know it. See, that's that shameful feeling of not knowing kids Okay, so and that's been how many years ago? That's 90s. Matter of fact, 79. Right? How many years is that with no phonics? That's a long time. Okay, even
21 and 24.
even directions. I would try to get them on direction, north, east, south, and west. I say, where's north? Everybody pointing straight up in the sky. You know, just simple stuff like that. I like, who been teaching you guys? So I would kind of take the first few weeks to try to get them up to snuff. So at least understand some of the concepts that I be talking about when I'm talking. I used to tell them from the front of the school, tell me how to get to where you live. You got to use intermediate and cardinal directions. You can't say make a right, make a left. No, I'll go west down here and east down here and south down here. And I asked them about where is south because they know that's where all the Latinos come from. They know how to point that way. You know what I'm saying, but it's terrible, man. And I don't know. I remember Mr. Freeman at Willowbrook. Now, that was a model education system in Compton. Any kid that was not on grade level in reading and writing and math, you took two of those classes, no elective. You took two of those classes until you got on par. And if you did all you supposed to do, there was a dance on Friday or a movie on Friday. And if you were late or didn't do your homework or something like that, you were not allowed to attend. In his school, you have buses that take kids all over Southern California to educational stuff. I mean, he really, and he was a former reading teacher from Centennial. And they tried to get him to take over the principalship at Compton High, and he didn't want to do it. And he ended up leaving the district, going to Inglewood. But Compton had a model, man. They used to have a waiting list, about 1,500 kids on a waiting list to get into Willowbrook when he was the principal. And I would get a lot of his kids in Linwood. I teach at Linwood High. A lot of the Willowbrook kids would come over there because they didn't want to, parents didn't want them in Compton High School. So, you know, it can be done. There's models around. That's why history is so important. I really admire Ra's son and what he had going at this school he had. Now he's not going to be the principal anymore. He's going into something else. So I wonder what the drop off is going to be after he leaves. So, and they'll
Right.
go ahead.
All right. I want to get Brother Mashinda in there. Brother Mashinda.
Yeah. I'm listening, and back to what Brother Doctor was talking about. Because when he came on, I know his sense of humor and his directness. And he provokes thought and discussion. He mentioned that he views like the educators as failures. And again, I don't think that he means that like every educator or anything like that. And I'm not here to justify him or speak for him, but you know, uh, that's kind of he could be like even like devil's advocate. It's like, hey, what happened? So he working in the prison system, and I got my experience working in criminal justice as well, and so what Brother Hembrick was alluding to and talking about is very true. Telling experiences and things like that. We all have experiences as well. So if you go back in time, and go back to previous podcasts, we can't forget about like COINTELPRO and these concerted efforts, these strategies to depower, to devalue, to destroy certain people, certain things in society. So there is a such thing called institutional racism on a larger scale. I learned that in school, in college, this lawyer had a class in administrative law, and he introduced me to institutional racism back in the 80s. And basically that's where they can use laws and regulations and rules and so forth to hold people back, to discriminate against people, to destroy people. And so during the times when we were coming up, some of us were coming up, and we can go back, and people before me go back in time where the nuclear family, the black family, let's talk about that, were intact, and it was a time where things started falling off. So if you look at the educational system as I was growing up, you get your butt whooped at school. It was like an extended family in the neighborhood. And so when laws change, you can't do this anymore. Those who subscribe to religious beliefs, you take religion out to school. I remember we used to sing "My Country, 'Tis of Thee" and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we know about the history of a lot of things, even with the national anthem and all of that. But it was some structure. That's all I'm pointing out. There was just some structure in that. So once the structure was broken down, and also the family structure through institutional racism, I'll just leave it at that, and we can look at the Office of Family Support, the probation departments, the criminal justice systems, or whatever, just the anti-systems, things turn into, so in other words, the breaking down of these systems, the fallout is that this is what we have today, which thus lends the development of the prison industrial complex, so the prison system grew, created jobs for the people from this breakdown, this intentional breakdown, this intentional destruction, So my thing is that there's a European Maslow. He talks about the hierarchy of needs, and yeah, he's a European, but if he puts things in perspective, you don't have to agree with. But like the bottom of the scale, the bottom of the needs scale of the pyramid is psychological needs. That's breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. If you can't satisfy that, it's hard to go up the pyramid, to elevate to the next level, which is safety and security, which deals with health, employment, property, family, and social ability. Right dab in the middle of that hierarchy is love and belonging. I think somebody alluded to that earlier, talking about having a sense of connection, where you have friendship, family, intimacy, sense of connection. Well, if you don't meet those psychological needs and those safety and security needs, it's going to be very difficult to reach those that love and belonging. And again, it also talks about how those things are interchangeable. You may have love and belonging, but might not have safety, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be in that order per se, but they do talk about where it's difficult to reach the next one from the top is self-esteem. So if you lack in the psychological needs and the safety and security and the love and belonging, your self-esteem, your confidence, which is confidence, achievement, respect for others, the need to be unique individual. You don't reach that point in the pyramid if you're lacking the physiological needs, the water, the shelter, because you're in survival mode. And then at the top of the pyramid, the last one is self-actualization, which is morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experience, purpose, and meaning of the inner potential. Like knowing your potential, understanding that you have potential. You don't reach self-actualization if you are having trouble in those bottom tiers of the need position. So I'm saying there has been a breakdown from, if you go back in time historically, because all this podcast has been talking about, well, not all, I don't want to be absolute, but we've talked about a lot of history and what happened in the past and things. It's very important to understand that. And so And so I'm correlating that to even today in Louisiana. You have a governor who is like a Nazi, and and they have a super majority. I spoke on that before on other podcasts. They're about to dismantle. Matter of fact, they're not about to do anything. He had a special session on crime. I'm gonna stop in a few. What he's doing is the when you're an inmate, he's about to extend their time. He's about to mess with their parole potential. He's about to make them do 85% of their time instead of being able to, you do good and you get yourself together and you're a nonviolent offender or whatever, you might can parole out early. No, and so they say, oh, it's going to affect whites and blacks. But we know that we make up more than 5 times the amount of people in the prison proportionally, and it's going to affect families. So anyway, the institutional racism, which talking about the governor, he's using his position, his status, his ability to do executive orders, and also the legislature, which is the House and the state representatives who actually create the laws, and he signs the bills and they're in cahoots together. So he has the whole conservative majority, and they're about to, so you see what they're doing in Florida. They're scrapping black history, like it's not part of history. That is ridiculous. We spend hours on hours on hours, year after year, talking about ancient civilizations and how we as black people, what did Dr. Dre, who was it say? We started this shit. And this is the MF and thanks I get. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up. That's what's going on. They're trying to eliminate you. And so the prison systems are about to grow, especially in Louisiana. They have to if people aren't getting out of jail once they earn their good time or learn a potential to parole. If you're out there carjacking and shooting people in the head, yeah, they're going to put you under the jail. But we know for a fact that most people aren't doing that. You have these drug dealers and different things like that, and whatever. These people aren't. It's so anyway. I said that to say that has an effect on our educational system. The families are broken up. Our people that's supposed to be there in the family, they create laws against us so we can be destroyed. I believe that. There is a concerted effort to wipe us out, and that's it. They know that it's last call for alcohol, that they're numbered. And so therefore, let's create these laws and let's do a full court press on these people. And our kids are the collateral damage. I'm done.
Okay, let me summarize that up. 2 things. Neely Fuller, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, everything else you do understand will only serve to confuse you. And the other thing is, the system, when it was in its inception, had one goal and one aim, and it has not changed to this day. Servitude, slavery, dehumanization, all of that was the original intent, and it's still the intent. It hasn't changed. Brother Doctor, you were correct in something, but their intent has not changed. Okay, Brother Damian, back to you.
No, I think what I'm hearing is and I think somebody said it. It's really not and maybe this is what I'm getting. It's really not the educational system is supposed to teach reading, math, science. But they're not getting the other stuff at home because of, I think someone said, kids having kids. So they don't know the stuff. So then our youth are just out there suffering because they can't get it from the educational system. They're not getting it from home. They're not getting it from the streets. And it's like, they're not getting it from pop culture. They're not getting what they really need from anywhere. So now we're trying to figure out how to get it to them. And I think, like you said, the home might be looking at the school now, and the school is like, that's really not our responsibility. And our responsibility is to teach them how to read, teach them math, teach them science. But they need more.
They ain't,
And go for it.
ain't doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's past, I would say 40 years.
Mhm.
This is a concept that had been introduced this evening, which is part of the problem. Social promotion. They passing kids along,
Yeah.
regardless if they can test out or graduate to the next. Let's just keep moving them along like cattle. That's been the game all the time. Well, for the last 40 years. So, but sometimes you run across some people in the education system, like for me, and I know Rashaki Machin, all the guys want to know these people, but Miss Maxine Kemp and Miss Leatrice Jones. They kept me from becoming mortal when I was in school. They would stay on me, stay on me, stay on me. And I remember I worked with Miss Jones because she worked district administrative hearing panel, which is a little court for schools. I worked on that for like 25 years with Miss Jones. Kid comes to the court, we assess the infractions that they made. We decide whether we're gonna return them to their school site, transfer them to a different school, or expel them from the district, right? So Miss Jones has sent me this kid. I mean, this kid was something else. And I called her up and I was hot. I like, Miss Jones, you sent this stuff over here. I can't get him to do it. I was hot. And she's like, baby, I remember when you wasn't so good yourself. I said, okay, okay, Miss Jones, you got me. I take the kid and I try to work with him, but I had to remember my own self. And that's so a lot of them kids, they couldn't fool me because I done did everything that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But you and if you could say one or two, you're not gonna get all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can save somebody.
Yeah.
I had a kid that called me about 2 months ago. I had him. He was in my ethnic studies class back in the day, and he was trying to become a gang dude. And I snatched him in his collar, hemmed him up in the corner, did all the stuff that I could do because I had enough seniority around there. And people knew that I could do stuff the normal average teacher can't do. And this kid has turned his life around, went in the military, finished the military. He's now an investigator for the EEOC. He just kept thanking me, thank you, Miss Henry, thank you, Miss. I said, no. I said, I appreciate the thanks, but you go help one like I helped you.
Yeah.
That's what you do for me. Turn somebody around like I turned you around.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, you got to get out there in the community, be seen. I haven't tried this with a white dude one time. He was from Palos Verdes, and the kids were giving him hell. I said, man, you got to go around the community and see what's happening with him. So he did that.
Yeah.
He came back wearing the chain, medallion, and all that. But he was able to communicate with the kids better. He went on and got better and better and better. If they see you coming out there and they know you concerned, especially if you riding around in the hood,
Mm-hmm.
but them teachers, man, when the bell hit 3 o'clock, they head to the freeway getting the hell out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes a long way with kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm done.
No, I like that because I think and it goes back to just caring. Like you said, if like you said, if the educational system structured would care, if the streets would care, if the families would care, then our youth would be set up to succeed. And they need that care. And I think that goes a long way with them. That's what they're looking for. I was thinking about I started a new program. Week 1, I'm there. Students don't know me. The teacher is asking them to share something. One boy is just flat out like, I'm not sharing nothing. And, so I'm like, why don't you want to share? I don't want to. I don't have to. Okay, cool. He's teachers asking people to volunteer, and he walks up to me and he shows me what he wrote. And I'm like, well, why are you sharing it with me? You don't know me. And he was like, because I sense that you care. I'm like, but I just walked in the door like a minute ago and spoke to you. But he was like, I sense that you care, so I'm gonna share what I wrote with you. And I think that I see that across the board with the students. Like, if they know that you care, they at least now you got an ear, so that when they start doing crazy stuff, okay, like pull you aside. And I think even with law enforcement, I think it all works together. If we could all bring it together, it'll all work together for our youth benefit. What was you about that? I thought I saw someone on mute. All right, so I think go for it. Go for it.
Oh yeah, I'm just I was listening, and are you at the end, or you have more?
What time do you want to stop? You let me know.
Oh no, if you have more, go ahead.
Okay, I want to talk about this part.
And can I say something real quick? Hey,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you, man, on that. That's 100% right. It comes down to care, man. You know, you don't care, and just what Machinda was saying. I was saying we get the kids that are failures, that that didn't make it. Those are the failures we get from the schools. Because I remember I was in school with and we had this one guy on the team. He flunked every class except gym. And I'm not gonna say his name, but say his name was Rasaki. We say Rasaki, the man with 5 F's, and we used to laugh, man. And the guy was a failure, man. He fell, and 10, 15 years later, I see this guy, on the main yard, walking the yard, and I just happened to see him, and I called him. Rasaki. He didn't know who I am because he was just, he was there 1 year on the junior varsity team. I was in varsity. He was trying to make varsity. And I saw him and I called his name out. And he's like, oh, man, I don't know, one of my cousins. I'm not related to it. And he's like, well, how you know me? And I said, hey, Roskaki, the man with 5 F's. And he knew where that was from high school. And it was one of the failures, man, because nobody cared about this dude. It's kind of like Ross Key said, you got the students that can perform, and you guys take care of them and make sure they get, but the kids that can't make it, they just kind of push to the side because nobody really cares. Then you got a Hembrick that come and can save one, but the other ones, man, become failure, and they become students of the war of the state, man, the failures, man. It's just because nobody cares, man, about everybody. And that's the problem, man. Like it comes down to in criminal, because I went out there flexing. I cared, man. I tried to help everybody I came into contact with, man. I was able to go into different neighborhoods at night and have problems. I cared, man. I took my job serious and I cared. And I think you nailed it right there, man. Nobody cares, man, about the kids, man. They just can't, make it. And it's not you guys' fault, man, because you got some guys with potential. You want to help them. You see them, and the other ones that are not acting right, man. You can't save everybody, and I understand that, man. So I think that stays the problem, man. We just don't have enough people to care for everybody.
Yeah, I just like to add a little something. I always had a classroom philosophy and coaching philosophy that all of my kids knew. They may not have followed it, but they knew what it was. Because if I question them about what it was of the activity, they're not knowing it. And I see them years later, and it kind of comes. I guess after I left them, because you never know who you're really affecting when you're dealing with a whole big group. And it'll come years down the road where, it clicks with them. They say, yeah, this dude tried to tell me this a long time ago. So, like I said, you plant the seed and the water will come from somewhere, and sooner or later, they'll get it. They don't all get it immediately, but you got to have a structured thing that they can relate to. I had the no LBS and I had the 5 Ps. Planning and preparation prevents poor performance. Okay. And sometimes you got to work like backwards, you know, start them from where you want them to get to and then work backwards to the beginning. I used to do that with blocking, with linemen a lot of time. Show the finished product, and we take a step by step going backward to when you're in your stance. You know, because there's different learning modalities. I think that's Gardner, isn't that Rashaki? Gardner's uh, theories on learning modalities, and people learn a different way. And you got, I'm not sharp on it now because I ain't worked in 10 years, but you know, you got to have these things in place for. And then since I retired, I used to get T-shirts made with the sayings on those shirts, and I see the kids out in the community. Like I had one of the no LBS with a big old circle with a cross through it, and I run into. I say, "You remember this?" Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, okay, apply that to your life. These are lifelong lessons, you know, so you can become a decent citizen, raise a family, and you don't have to get away from that criminal life. So I say, if you're gonna be a criminal, be a real one. You're gonna be go in the bank. That's where the money is. Don't be hitting your brother over the head for $2. Go in the bank and get you 100,000. If you're gonna be a gangster, be one. Okay. And I had a lot of fun in my career. I really enjoyed myself and wouldn't have changed a thing. Anyway, I'm out.
All right, brother Damian, we gonna do a part 3 if that's good with you.
I'm fine with that. I'm having a ball listening to you guys talk about
Yeah,
the
there's a lot to be said about this youth development.
yeah.
And everybody made some excellent points, and we just, we got to keep educating and doing our best to learn too. Keep learning, keep educating. Each one teach one. So I appreciate it, brother Damon, and everybody else, brother Machinda, brother Doctor, brother Hembry. So next week's guest is Tim Tyson. He's the sensible economist. The topic is going to be the untold truth about retirement. So that'll be a good one. And brother Hendrick, you know Tim Tyson. So
I was wondering if it was the same guy. He used to be
yeah,
my.
yeah. So that's our guest. It should be very interesting. I should learn something more sure about this. But we gonna end it here. Each one teach one, and Conscious Corner. Everybody have a good evening.
Brother Damian.